Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new Art of the Game over here at Cabbit Crossing. And we are three game masters who are slightly experienced, higher character level. GM level, GM character class level 15, maybe. I don't know.
Hardcore.
And anyway, we take our experience from various game systems, offer you some tips and tricks, and also debate a little bit on certain topics. And today, what is the topic, Woody? What is the topic?
The topic is this. I'm going to start out right now because Greg says he has to take a shot.
Greg, take a shot.
No.
It's another episode. You got to take a shot.
No, it's the same day. Don't listen to them.
Okay. So, so we're talking about player knowledge versus character knowledge. I feel like this, I think over time this may become a little bit less of a hot button issue, but it certainly was a big one back in the day, particularly when you had fewer games out there. And but you always had this thing where like the players, like certain players will read every book and then they can't not know things. And I actually have this happening with one of my players who reads every book in the Rifts line, and he knows it, I think, a little bit better than me in some cases. And I keep having to remind him, you would not know that. And that's that is kind of a thing where like you have this idea of player knowledge versus character knowledge, and your character really would only know certain things. And so there's the problem of how do you address that? How do you kind of shut the problem down of like, well, I'm going to go do this, but then like you don't know this, right? And as Greg said, just a moment ago off camera, it is okay to metagame a little, but there is kind of, you have to draw the line somewhere. And there's various ways to handle it. And obviously with, good manners, but take it away, gentlemen. Well, we'll start with Mark since Greg's, preparing tea.
Yeah, I get that metagame knowledge. I don't have too big of a problem with it anymore. Like when we were younger, I think people would do that more. But,
we got really worked up over it back in the day. Yeah.
Most people are pretty good about it because they know it kind of might ruin the story a little bit. I think sometimes they're too good at it, and then maybe they don't like take clues like they should.
Well, some people are more committed to playing the character than others.
Yeah, some are.
Yeah, because some people are just there for the experience. So they're there for like the chase of like leveling up and power, like building their character. And other people want to be that character,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as I play more, I guess what would be called story game, community category games like PBTA and
Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah, Powered by Apocalypse and Fate.
Narrative first games.
Yeah. Remember, Mark, every episode is potentially somebody's first episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Be like, what is PBTA? Tell me what it is, ChatGPT or Google.
What is metagaming? You should probably define that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's when you know something you're not supposed to. But but yeah, what's interesting is there's a lot more involvement where they're thinking about the game itself and how their characters might interact with the fiction and such. And so they make it part of the game in a way. So it's actually beneficial sometimes, and they're motivated to go along with the narrative. So
yeah. Well,
I had one of the funniest stories, by the way, with this.
Yeah.
Because I've always had the rule that if you roll a natural 1, you roll a d20 again. And if you roll 5 or less, it's like a critical failure, like bad things happen, right?
Yes.
But my rule with knowledge is that if you roll a natural 1 and you get a critical failure by rolling again, you get bad information that you think is true. So, and my friend plays with that too. So I was playing a player in his campaign, and he took the idea from me. And we were trying to figure out how to talk to a white dragon. And I rolled a natural 1. And I said, and he told me, and I confirmed it, and he told me, white dragons like it when you give them like tribune to try to get in their good graces.
Tribute,
yes. I don't know what tribune is, but tribute to get into the good graces.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, all the other players, one of them heard and kept it to himself, and the rest didn't even hear that. And so I told them all this, and they all thought I was serious, most of them, and we went, and we did that, and we all died because the dragon just came and...
Okay. Greg, a tribune is a Roman official
thank you.
The monarchy and the republic with the function of protecting the plebeian citizen from the arbitrary actions of the patrician magistrates.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
Isn't there a newspaper about that, or is that a fictional
I'm
newspaper?
pretty sure I heard that in a movie somewhere too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Well, a Tribune would be a newspaper that serves a function of exposing, corruption or whatever. But, yes.
Okay. I prefer tabloids, but yeah, but yeah, it's I haven't had much trouble with it at all. People are generally pretty good with it now, and I think it comes down to the fact that role playing a character has become so much more mainstream and
it
part of the
has.
game now.
Yeah, it
that people are do it naturally.
In my Saturday game in Rifts, yeah, okay. Oh, there it is again. I just said it, Greg. Anyways, so in my Saturday, you got to take a shot of tea. So in my Saturday game, I've literally got two people that are hardcore role players. Like they are into the character that they're portraying. And I got the one guy that just sits back and like he's just analyzing everything. And then I've got the one guy who, sorry, I'm calling you out, but he forgets that he wouldn't know things, right? And I'm of the opinion that if you want to take advantage of your player knowledge, then build a character that can do so. And it is possible, particularly in a Palladium game, because there's like the skill system is so dense and so diverse. And there's a lot of characters that are designed to have knowledge. So just build a character with the knowledge, take all the lore skills, right? And I usually handle this by like either your character absolutely would not know. Sorry, that's just you didn't build that character, or roll the dice and see if and you can resolve this a lot of the times that way. But there is like there are straight up there's things that characters should not be able to do or should not know how to do, no matter what they build them.
Yeah.
And but also as I mentioned, like you also. I mean, I guess you have like two scenarios. You have the guy that's like upfront and just does it all the time, and you have to keep reminding them or shut them down because they're a douche about it, which thankfully I don't have any of those. But like the other one is the guy that kind of does what I do, where you just sit back and you do it quietly. And you come up with smart ways to take advantage of it without having to expose what you're doing. Because like I'm heavily tactical and like whenever hold on, I got it. Hi, sweetie. Hey. So anyways, because like for me, that's one of the parts where I fail, I guess, because like I can't not do that. And like, because like when you were playing Star Wars, you put us in these crazy combat encounters, right, Greg? And I'd be like, I'm just immediately chewing the scenarios. Like, okay, I immediately like, I'm 10 steps ahead. I know exactly what we have. Okay, this is our assets here. He needs to be over there. I clearly have to be over here. And it's like, it's absolutely not in the chaos of the moment. I'm already worked out how to win, and I'm just not saying I'm doing that, but I am. And like, because I've studied too many of these books. I understand how the RPG tactics work. And it's like, that's just how I think. Cause and it's like, I will freely admit, I'm not good at keeping it separate,
Yeah.
You're the problem, Woody. So
I am the problem.
Well, I do the same thing. Like if I'm going up against a monster, I'm like, oh man, I know this is a pudding. I'm not supposed to hit it with a slashing weapon. It'll split. So I don't do it, right? Yeah. But like it's hard not to. And I don't know if there's a good way to get around that. But there's another angle to look at this, which is when a player realizes something about the story, but they don't think their character would. And in those cases, I'm actually totally okay. And I even tell my players that even if your character's stupid, right? But you realize something about the plot, like you just put two and two together and you came up with it, you don't have to roll anything. You thought of it, your character thought of it, and that's good enough for me, right?
I'm constantly amazed with the people of like, oh, I'm just gonna forget this smart thing. Like I'm my character's low IQ. I'm just gonna roll with that. Like I'm actually constantly impressed with people that are so into that. Like one of my guys, he plays his character like he's stupid, but he's actually not. It's actually kind of an act. But he's so into the act that nobody realizes what his character's actual intelligence is.
Wow.
Yeah. And he just enjoys playing an idiot. Like
Yeah. I think everyone expects a little bit of metagaming in that way. It's kind of my point. And it's okay to do it a little bit. And honestly, anything your player thinks of, if it's just putting connections together that aren't something you just read offline, you actually, are playing and you put it together yourself, just have your character think of it too. I mean, you don't have to play stupidity that hard.
Well, I actually think it's okay to a degree to do it but like, because like I over the years I've had a lot of people though who I constantly have to like police it, right? And but like if you're gonna play smart and you know these things and you're subtly doing it, and but you're not drawing attention to the fact that you're doing it, right? I don't really have a problem with that. You know, if you're going to the effort of working it into your character, right? And yes, you absolutely know that monster is vulnerable to blah blah blah, and you have found a way to get that thing it's vulnerable to. It's kryptonite, and but you did it in a way where I conveniently have this item, but you knew you were going to need it. Well, what a nice coincidence! But you're actually going to the effort. You're at least invested in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a win. And so that doesn't bother me so much. It's the people that like you constantly have to police them, and they can't separate it out, and they're not playing a role-playing game. They're power gaming. They're doing something else, you know. And you know, if they were invested in the story, they wouldn't necessarily need to do all that.
Yeah, and especially when they say it out loud, because you're right. When you keep it to yourself and you just kind of use the tactics for yourself, that's not too bad unless it's blatant, right? The problem is when that black pudding comes out and your giant barbarian with 4 intelligence goes, "Oh, don't hit it with slashing damage," you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, you read the stat block.
yeah, totally. Well, like in that Star Wars game we were doing, like keep bringing up, like, but like when we were in that big fight and that dark sider had taken over our base and had mind control everybody, like I had to be the one keeping all the minions distracted. There was no other.
You're on top of a table tanking them, I think. Yeah,
exactly. I was rolling over a table. Yeah, but like I had to be the one to do it because like there was nobody else. And if I didn't keep them distracted, then nobody else stood a chance. We were going to be overwhelmed. And it was like, you know, but
that wasn't metagaming, right?
I think it was actually, but I mean, like, in a way, I mean, I don't know, because like, I just knew the tactics, and so that's why I did it. Like, but it could have been any one of us. It's just that any other character would have got mobbed, like overwhelmed and killed. You know, like,
I think tactics is okay as long as not knowledge that your character would know. Like if you know there's a certain weakness. Like certain creatures that you wouldn't be able to know, but just knowing like I need to keep these people busy when you do that. That's team dynamics that players should learn.
But the thing is like it's a tactical level that doesn't necessarily line up with what my character's training or knowledge would have been. You know, it's like it doesn't necessarily match the character I made. It's me, and I'm always that way. And
I would like to think almost any character who could look at everything from a bird's eye view and down at what everyone's doing, they could come up with some amount of tactics, right? Yeah. Now, of course, if you're really role playing, you're in the moment and you see them coming in, right? Obviously, your character wouldn't think of doing that exact tactic in that case, right?
But I was really invested in that fight, though, man. Like,
I think it's fine. I think that amount of metagaming is fine. I mean, the funny thing is, if you look at our military today, they actually put transponders in the helmets of the soldiers, and they have a drone with actual live top-down, like bird's eye strategy view of moving soldiers and stuff. So it is like D&D now.
So, but no, it's an RTS. Like it's they're playing Warcraft 2 or
No,
I mean it's basically the technology of aliens is finally here. You know, fix the camera, boom, and then like suddenly it's thank you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if this would be considered metagaming or not? I think sometimes I have some of my player characters, let's say in Curse of Strahd, I think they're so like freaked out a little bit that they came up this one time to a dead body on the road, and the instant reaction was, I'm going to set them on fire.
Well,
I'm like, what?
Okay. All right. So like,
because they were just so sure it was going to get ambushed or something, which it did not. It ended up being a corpse. They had a letter that was important for them to read, and it got.
Okay. So here. Okay. So here's the thing, right? So in Palladium, vampires can regenerate from nothing, right? You can incinerate them and they'll come back. Okay.
Yeah.
So once a player has dealt with monsters that do that, right? They have that level of regeneration. the paranoia that they will bring to the table is predictable. Okay. to the point where like so I'm helping a friend develop some monsters based on actual mythology. So we're looking at, instead of like what they do, let's just be creative with it. But no, we're taking what the actual mythology is and building stat blocks around that. Uh-huh. And so I've been playtesting some of these monsters in one of my campaigns. And so they reduced this monster to ash. Now they knew it was regenerating. It's not a vampire, but like they literally cremated the thing. And then they're like, it's not dead. It can't be dead. And so they're running around with the ashes in a basin, and they're
checking it.
Exactly. And they're like, okay, it's going to come back to life eventually. And they're checking it, and they're like, we need to find a shaman. And they're chasing down like a Native American shaman to try to figure out how to kill this thing. And so we had that whole business, and
I would have just put it in 20 separate boxes, bury them, and then throw one of them in a river or something.
They did that too. They had to divide it up, and it turned out, like, and it was fun because it gave me a chance to kind of think about the stat block, like, oh, this is okay. So if they do this, how we can handle it, right? So they had to fight the monster again, obviously, but like, that whole scenario though, like. Yes, of course they're going to set the body on fire because they're in a world where everything's trying to kill them, right? And so, like, you can predict that level of paranoia after a while, and so if you put them in Barovia, I'm sorry, Marks, but that's what.
Barovia, yes, yeah,
Barovia, right? Like Barcelona, you sent them to Barcelona. So, but like you
sort of is. No,
sooner or later that paranoia is going to kick in, and that's just like how it is. Well,
a form of, sometimes as a GM, you can impose metagaming on a character. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, in that case, when they say, "Oh, it's going to come back alive" or something like that. You can be like immediately be like, roll a religion check. They didn't say they want to check, right? They didn't say that, oh, maybe it's like, I'm going to go try to figure out. No, but you can tell them like, roll a religion check. Why don't you see if you can tell or something like that?
Yeah,
and I think that's, because they won't do it themselves.
Yeah, they're not going to trust it though. That's the thing. So,
if they're all high enough, they will.
Yeah. Well, but in those sorts of situations, like how you handle it depends upon what kind of players you have too. Because if you have players who are just like they're all tactical, and they're just, they're it's about the chase, not the story. That stuff is not going to work. If you have people that are into the story and they want to play those characters and they're really invested in the experience, yes, that will work. But like the people that get paranoid, they're always going to be paranoid. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to tell a fun one, by the way. So this is too great. So we were doing the Nightspawn role playing game, or what they call it, Nightbane now. Thanks, Todd McFarlane. And so
I have it as Nightspawn, the original.
Yes, so do I. It's fucking one of the greatest RPGs ever made. I'm gonna. Hell yeah, Nightspawn. You don't own everything, Todd. So anyhow, but like, God, I hope he never sees this. So. Apparently he really likes my comic books.
So it's expressed on the show, or not necessarily Cabbit Crossing.
Nope. But okay, so we're playing this, and one of my players, they're fighting a vampire. One of the players hits a vampire with a sonic attack so hard that it kind of would blow him apart. So he made the joke that I hit him so hard his testicle got blown off. And so we all had a good laugh, blah blah blah. And then they fight the vampire, throw it in a pool, and just the ashes there. They're literally still there in the campaign. The ashes are still floating in this pool, but like, they never drained it. But, so we all thought it was a joke. And then they finish the fight. A couple hours in game time go by. They meet this wizard. They're talking to this wizard. And then they're like, oh, here, you might need this. And he pulls a testicle out of his pocket and throws it on the counter. and then suddenly like people are going like this.
The wizard's metagaming.
But it's like the players were like, oh shit. And my guy was like, what? He didn't know. And it's like, now we have to retcon things because that testicle would have been growing back into a vampire in your pocket, and so,
gotcha.
So we had to decide how to resolve this.
Oh no.
And
it's just a little vampire. It's growing.
Well, with a giant ball attached to it. So he's just like, let's stick figure the ball.
what my wife, when she heard the story, she was thinking of those tumors that grow teeth. And so in her mind, there's a testicle that's biting people and trying to suck their blood, but like no, we literally had to like. I know this is kind of off topic, but
it's turned into a weird thing. B-balls. It's a new.
I know, but it kind of is, kind of isn't, because suddenly you have this metagame situation where the player didn't, but he also didn't know they regenerated that much, and anybody else at the table would have just got rid of that thing, whether their characters knew it or not, right? And then we had to decide, well, what happens, and we ultimately sorted out, because he wanted to have made the mistake, because he liked the idea of being that stupid. And so the idea was that he lost the testicle while taking a shower, and then so what he basically did is he brought the vampire over the threshold of the hotel, and now it was able to get in there and start. So they get back to the hotel to find he's turned it into a horror show, and so he grew back. And then,
wow.
But yeah, so we have the saga of the testicle vampire, and there might be a monster pop up in the Sad Hot Dog Man universe eventually. That's swarms of tumors that come after you. And
go to cybersymbiosis.com and see the Sad Hot Dog Adventure.
Well, eventually, we don't have it posted yet. We just had the successful Kickstarter, I have the books in my possession now. We're putting the packages together, everybody. Nice. And Greg, where is your Kickstarter survey?
What? Oh shit!
I'm so
bad at those.
Somebody named Greg Hervé has not filled out his survey.
I did the same with one of Mark's Kickstarters too. But go check out our episode on retconning for more on that story. I mean, not that you went over that story, but that plays into that same idea that sometimes you have to retcon and come with things.
Now we have enough episodes we can refer back. But
yeah.
So I think the consensus here is a little metagaming is okay, and
a little metagaming is okay.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing if people are invested, but you still have to like. I'm going to stand by it. If you want to use your player knowledge, build a character that can do it. Otherwise, just you're playing what you've created, and that
especially if you want to. Yeah, project out your knowledge, which is the major problem, right? If you're going to want to say your knowledge out loud, then yes, you should make a character that would be able to do that. And it's fairly easy in a Rifts game because there's so many skills, but it might be a little more challenging because like in D&D, only one or two characters would be able to do these sorts of things. The rest of them are just what they are. And so like you want to know about monsters, play a ranger. If you are playing D&D, don't be afraid just to use their passive skill. Like if they have a passive Arcana check of 15 or something, just you have a passive 15, you'll know about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then GM should allow a certain level of knowledge. You don't have to roll for everything. It's when you're trying to determine something outside of your character's experience.
So they live in that world. They know stuff. So,
yeah, they should know something.
I hope so.
Yep.
I think we have an episode.
Good. Take us out, Marks.
Yeah, I think so. Well, that's it for today's Art of the Game. Don't forget, subscribe to keep up with new episodes of this or any of the other playlists on various tabletop, role-playing game, or other creator type topics. And let us know what you think in the comments. What do you think about meta knowledge, player versus character knowledge? What kind of stories do you have to share? Share them in the comments, and let's make it a conversation. And I think that's it for now. So, bye.
You know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. But sometimes you do know what you don't know.
Sometimes you can roll for what you don't know.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they